All right, welcome, guys. This is Breakfast with the Brand, the number one podcast in the world for entrepreneurs and leaders who want to build industry leading brands. If you're with us and if you're looking at this live, go ahead and do two things for me. Number one, put some flames in the chat. And number two, let us know where you're listening in from. I am your host, Junior Frederick, and I have with me, as usual, Mr. Bobby Stealth. Bobby, how you doing?
Absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Did back this morning. Loved it. Loved it. And I'm excited to see where we take today's conversation. I've already got some things in mind, but how are you doing this morning, Junior Frederick, the phenomenal?
Um, I'm doing good, man. I feel like you're watching me, Bobby, because I did the exact same thing. I feel like do you have like a drone or something watching me, man? Like what's
Man,
going on? That's a little creepy, man. Are you doing the exact same thing that I'm doing?
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, with that being said, bounce back is something that I had in mind, no pun intended, right? No pun intended, but the bounce back, because there's a lot of individuals watching right now as I see the comments coming in. They're saying phenomenal morning from Texas, wonderful Wednesday from Detroit. It's hump day. Well, it's pump day, formerly known as hump day. So pump day is where we get a pump and we go out there and we crush it. And I think a lot of people could benefit from a bounce back right now. They've been hitting it hard, they've been going hard, rocking steady, and they feel like they may have, fallen back. So put a one in the chat if you feel like you've been hitting it, and you're due for a breakthrough. Like you're just due for a level up. So that's what I'm feeling, Junior. How about you?
Bobby, I'm forever in bounce back. I'm forever in bounce back mode, man. I feel like that forever. I feel like that right now. I felt
Mhm.
like that yesterday. I felt like that the day before, and most likely I'm gonna feel like that tomorrow. So I can definitely relate to that. I've been grinding for a long time. Um, and sometimes, Bobby, sometimes you plant seeds. So, the Bible says that you plant many seeds, and of course, not all of your seeds are gonna grow. Some of them fall on fertile soil, and some of them don't. And sometimes, guys, put it in the chat if you could relate. Sometimes you're planting seeds and you're asking God, okay, where's the fruit? Okay, okay, big guy, I've been, planting seeds for a little while now. Where's the fruit? And you're looking for the fruit, right? And
Right.
that's what it is. And you just have to keep going because everything in God's time, right? So you have to keep going, and then you never know. Today might be the day. Today might be the day. It might be tomorrow. It might be on Friday. You don't know. You don't know when it's coming. So you just have to keep going.
Yeah, that does remind me of a proverb actually. Before we go to the break here, it's I believe it's in Ecclesiastes. It talks about the diligent hand, just being very diligent. And we don't plan to take you guys to church today, but that's just a really good book. It's a great book, got a lot of great wisdom in there. And in Proverbs, it talks about diligence. It says, "Do not ever slack off." It's like never take a day off, because the person that tries to gauge their work by the way the wind blows is the person that'll never make it. And pretty much what the proverb is saying is that you never know when the wind is going to blow your way. You never know when the sun is going to shine just right. You never know when the rain is going to hit your one plant perfectly. It's like you never know. So the best thing you can do is be diligent. It's like just never stop. Just always be at it. And I think that's where the axiom, the harder I work, the luckier I get, comes from. Is like the more you grind and the more you hit it and the more opportunities you give yourself at winning, the more you'll win. So I think that's a great place to take us to the break, unless you had something, Junior.
No, Bobby, I think that was excellent. So, guys, when we come back, we're going to get into the bounce back. Stay tuned.
From Harriet Tubman to Sojourner Truth to Rosa Parks, we have always been on a freedom run. Your LLC, your S Corp, C Corp, your business entity is what's going to give you the ability to go from your job, your industry wages, your 9 to 5, to the life of your dreams and the dream of your life. This is about you attaining all of the things that you could only possibly imagine and that our ancestors saw as not even being possible. Your freedom run, this is your freedom run. This is your moment. We're going to show you how to establish yourself as a business entity so you can go and come as you choose. There was a time when we needed permission slips to go from plantation to plantation. When you get a little bit older, you need permission slips to go from class to class. And when you get a little bit older, you get a vacation for 2 weeks, and then you have to come back after 2 weeks to your job, right? That's what they call it now, the 9 to 5, the gig. You might you work for 50 weeks and you get 2 off. The freedom run is when you establish your LLC and you're free for the rest of your life. Confidence is key. Most of the people I work with, they have the education, the experience, and the expertise. We call those the 3 E's. But they're looking for the 3 I's, the income, the impact, and the independence. And I always tell them that the bridge between the 3 E's and the 3 I's is marrying your confidence to your competence. Most of the people I work with, again, have all of the competence in the world. What I help them do is get the confidence. I said Shaan Rais. I'm proud. Shaan Rais. Leadership is not the brand they made for us.
Listen, he brought fire, heat. He didn't hold back.
20 years down the line, what I could sell, why not serve first? Service over salary. Branding like a leader closes the gap for people who want branding. Speaking like a leader closes the gap for people who are nervous about speaking. If Steve Jobs would have speculated, we wouldn't have Apple.
He changed lives. He helped people open up their business and start their business.
We are the brand. Some people say, Shaan, should I quit my job? Mentally, yes.
As a speaker too, to be able to learn from him and watch him and you know, game respects game. And I want to have that much game someday.
The right client, pay $500,000 for what you do. You have to be bold in your beliefs.
He has been an amazing asset to this event and a pleasure to work with. Very captivating, collaborative, worked very well with the audience.
I want to help you. Put a 0 behind your number, right?
The session was great. How he is online, virtually, he is even more phenomenal in person.
Be the face of change that you want to see. Stop asking questions and start giving demands.
The entire team has just been absolutely incredible. They are a joy to work with. They go above and beyond.
Give yourself a round of applause. Yes, yes, yes.
All right, guys. So we are back. Bobby, just a quick technical check, man. Can you see me and can you hear me clearly?
Yes, yes. See you clearly, hear you clearly, brother.
All right, very nice. All right, so let's get the show going.
Yeah, let's dive right in. So one of the things that I want us to think about today is your personal brand leadership. So if you've been following us for any amount of time, you know that that's a style of leadership that Shaan Rais has brought to the forefront and has talked quite a bit about. So your brand, your personal brand leadership requires elasticity. It must be elastic. So what I mean by that, and what me and Junior are going to talk about today, is a rubber band. Like your rubber band, like you pull it back, you pull it back, you pull it back, and the further you pull it back and let it go, the further it shoots forward, right? So with your brand, my question to you and the conversation me and Junior are going to have is, when was the last time your brand was pulled back? When was the last time you were pulled back? When was the last time your elasticity was tested? Are you rigid or are you flexible? Because these are the things that are required for the bounce back. And it's all mental too. A lot of it, at least 90% of it, is how far can your mind go in one direction while keeping its eye on the prize. So Junior, my first question for you, or just how we would like to open this conversation up this morning, is when was the last time you found yourself pulled in a direction where you're like, wait a minute, what's going on? And you just kept going further and further and further. And then when it all made sense, you were like, wow, that's why that had to happen.
Bobby, I feel like that. I feel like that's always happening. Like even right now. I mean, Tony Robbins has this phenomenal thing he says where sometimes we think life is happening to us, but it's actually happening for us. And I believe that 100%. So when you ask me that question, I would say, guys, like what happened to you in the past, there's clarity in hindsight. There's clarity in hindsight. So 5 years from now, you're going to experience something and you're going to come back to this moment where we're on this call right now. And you're going to think to yourself, that's why I saw that episode of Breakfast with the Brand.
Right.
So,
Right.
Bobby, to answer your question, I feel like we're always in those moments. I feel like we're constantly creating those moments where it doesn't necessarily make sense right away. But as we grow and as we go, it starts to make sense. So,
Right.
clarity, you find clarity through the process. And,
Absolutely.
the other day I was driving and somebody asked me a question. They asked me a very interesting question, which is I guess another way to ask me what you just asked me. So they said to me, if you could go back in time, and I want to ask the audience this, if you could go back in time and you could change one thing, what would it be? So somebody asked me that question while I was driving. And I thought about it and I said, I can't think of a time. As I said, no moment, no time. I wouldn't change anything. And they said, you sure you wouldn't change anything? Like there's not something that might have happened to you in the past that you didn't want to happen to you and stuff like that. I said, of course, yes. But I said I wouldn't change anything. And then they asked me why. And my response was life. Life is so intricate. Like even right now, there are like 10,000 things going on right now, Bobby. There are
Mm-hmm.
10,000 things going on right now. And this is my belief, if you change one thing about the past, then you change the entire future.
Yeah.
So the question I said to the person, I don't live in a mindset or mind frame of regret. I don't. I don't live with regret. The only thing I ask myself, and the way I sort of judge it is I say, am I a better person today than I was yesterday? Am I in a better situation today than I was yesterday? Do I have more clarity today than I did yesterday? If the answer is yes, then I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason being, you might have gone back and you change one lesson, but you also remove yourself from future success. You might have gone back and you took away one heartache or one headache, and you stop yourself from getting a lesson that ends up being a blessing to somebody else. A very, very long time ago, I learned that, you probably shouldn't try to seek freedom from pain. Pain is growth. You seek freedom through it, not from it.
Mm.
So whatever situation you're going through right now, like don't say to God, God, take me from it. Tell him take you through it. Because when you go through it, that's where you get the lesson. And if you get the lesson, then you'll get the blessing. So that's my answer to that. My answer is I feel like I'm in that moment right now where I'm creating these moments that I'll look back on later that will make sense in the future.
Hmm. So with this, you gave such an elaborate response, Junior. You're making me have to attack this from a different angle because expecting you to answer it one way and move on, and now I was going to ask you the next follow-up question, but you broke it down so much that I said, I may have to attack this from a different angle for the benefit of the audience and myself. So after you broke it down in that way, it led me to think about this. If we're not going to change anything, if everything that's happening for us and nothing is happening to us, then the question becomes, is there ever a good time to quit? And I don't think there is. I don't think there is ever a good time to quit. I think that we should press and push until we are either immobilized by life, like we can no longer go any further, or we hit a breakthrough. And the reason I believe this from the conversation that we're having right now is that let's say I were to change one thing, right? Let's say I was to quit at this one thing. then what's to say I'm not going to quit at the next thing and the next thing and the next thing? And this brings a memory to me from a person that I care about deeply, but they just didn't understand my journey. So they saw me going in business, and they saw me building my business, leaving the jobs, getting all of these different offerings to go work corporate and get a good cushy pension and all this stuff, right? And they were like, why are you doing this to yourself? Why are you putting yourself through so much uncertainty and so much anxiety as you grow and build this business in the midst of a pandemic, right after getting out of the military, right in the middle of chaos? Like, why are you doing this to yourself? And in the moment I responded, I don't know what else to do. Like, I'm passionate. Like, I love this. This is who I am. You know, I had a bit of an ego response. Granted, I meant it, but it wasn't the best response, so to speak, in hindsight. But this person stayed with me and is still in contact with me today. And they asked me about the business recently. And I said, it's doing something completely different. And they said, well, I could have told you that. They gave me this response that was like, you could have just did this sooner. You could have just made this pivot before. You could have just done this 6 months ago, 6 years ago. And I was like, no, I couldn't have. Because there are certain things that I learned during my transition. There were certain things I learned on the journey. There were certain people I met, certain relationships that I cultivated, and certain realities that manifested inside of my psyche that I would not have had I not experienced what I experienced. So as I get ready to bring Junior back with my next question, I just want you guys to think to yourselves, don't let anyone's critique of your exodus define your destination. Now, Exodus is a very common story about individuals, Hebrews, that were leaving Egypt and making it to the promised land. A lot of people are going to critique your transition. They're going to be like, why didn't you do it this way? Why did it take you so long? Why did you do this in the middle of that? Why didn't you go this way instead of that way? And when people critique your exodus, just let them talk. They're probably critiquing from the place of bondage. You know, so while they're critiquing you on your freedom run, they can only shout from the rooftops of their bonded castle, and they're no freer than you were, and you're much freer than they are. So that's very important to think about. So my next question for you, Junior, is, as you have made multiple freedom runs, you've gone from being in the HVAC system to being an entrepreneur. You've gone from learning copywriting and just how to craft emails into being a email marketing and direct marketing consultant. And you've gone from there to being a master of sales and continuing to improve your craft. So what were some common patterns that you started to identify that are common to transitioning to the next level that you could share with the people today to kind of give them some peace of mind, some solace?
That's a great question, Bobby. I would say the most common things are at every level, the ceiling was always in your mind. So in sales, we say something. We say that all objections to price are on the part of the seller, not the buyer. All objections to price are on the part of the seller, not the buyer. But when it comes to transformation, all limits to transformation is on the part of the person looking to be transformed. So at every single ceiling, I guess, the lack of perspective came from me. It was always just a change in perspective. It wasn't necessarily you became a different person physically. It's just that you had a different perspective. So, this required just sitting down, finding out what you want, finding more clarity about what you want, and then just making a decision to go out and just to get what you want. But you start to realize that at every single point where you decide to pivot, the glass ceiling is always in your mind. It's always a lack of perspective. That's all it is. At every different shift and turn, and I give the story of the fly, right? I give the analogy of the fly running into the glass window the other day. The fly just needs a different perspective. We don't need to try harder. We need to try differently. It's all about a different perspective. And once you get a different perspective, then you could have a different life. Just like the saying goes, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So when you change your perspective on life, then life starts to change. When you change your perspective on business, then business starts to change. So I read books all the time, and I read books from people that are way more successful than I am, because I want to get their perspective. Because I believe that if I could master their perspective, I could master their decision making, I could master their resolve, their reasoning, and I could achieve the same results. So that's what I would say. It was always a lack of perspective. But for you to really and truly understand that, you have to be, number one, coachable, you have to be humble, and you have to be introspective enough to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, I'm not perfect. There's something that I'm not seeing. There's some, some perspective, some way, shape, or form, something that is there that I, for whatever reason, I just can't see. Like there's something that you need to do, but for whatever reason, you just can't see it. You don't have the right vision to see it. And then you need to ask yourself the right questions. So there's a saying, and I'll just paraphrase it, but it basically goes like this. If you take enough time to formulate the right question, then you've already arrived halfway at the answer.
Yeah.
For real.
Good.
Like I tell people in the leverage, if you ask the right questions, you get the right answers. If you ask the right questions, you get the right answers. If you take enough time to formulate the right question, then you've already gone halfway to the answer. And I know a lot of older people who would say, you can't ask me any questions that you don't already know the answer to. You can't ask me any questions that you don't already know the answer to. So being able to ask yourself the right questions to get the right perspective is actually the key to transformation.
This is really a powerful pivot that we may have to dive into after we come back from the break. But the perspective piece is crucial, because your brand, like when we talk about personal brand leadership, your leadership is an extension, or your business rather is an extension of your leadership. And I think that as I've watched many business owners, and I've seen a lot, I'm talking hundreds, go through the process of building their businesses and then the business succeeding or failing. And the thing that I see is they're unable to fix their core, so they can't build a store. And that's what I keep seeing. It's like there's something internal to them that is, so to speak, defective for the next level. Like this quality or this trait or this characteristic will not take you to the next level. And it's a core component of them. And until they can break that habit, for a lot of people I meet, it's the fear of investing. A lot of people are they're scared of losing. The fear of loss is very big for a lot of people, and it's core to a lot of people. And I've noticed that if that's one they can't shake or one they can't break, then it goes into their business. So they never invest enough. They never take big enough risk. And investment's not always about money. Like they never take enough time from their family. They never take enough money to invest at one time. They never dive deep into something because they're always afraid of missing out on the next thing. So I love this perspective question. So when we come back from the break, I think we'll dive deeper into that.
The difference between sales and closing. I get this all of the time, guys. Closing is elegant. Closing is luxurious. Closing is the most profitable. Sales, high pressure tactics. No one associates car sales, right? The sleazy sales tactics with closing, because closing is elegant. Closing is excellent. You have to be a professional in order to close deals. Listen, when you do this the right way, when you learn what we're going to teach you in here, your clients will be trying to close you, and they won't let you close them for low numbers. So you'll be able to heighten, increase your profitability, increase your visibility, increase your reach, and increase your impact in the marketplace, and be confident and comfortable charging higher prices than you ever thought possible to the right people who can actually pay for them and then say thank you for closing them. So when you're young, mommy tells you to play nice. Play nice, Timmy. Let all of the other kids play too. But in business, it's not about playing nice. In business, it's about winning. It's about adding multiple zeros to your revenue. Now, of course, your staff wins. And when you win, other people win. However, when it comes to competition, you absolutely must dominate. You can't play for participation, and you can't play just to get along or just to get by, because business is serious. Business will help you to change the world, or the world will change you. Your people will either win or your people will lose based on your level of leadership, what you're willing to do, what you're willing to sacrifice, and how much you know about dominating.
Yes,
Hey
yes,
guys,
yes.
so we are back. Definitely, definitely. I want to send a quick shout out to I see David. So David says, thank you, Junior Frederick and Bobby Jackson. So David, you're definitely, definitely welcome. All right. Joel says it's all good. Shout out to Joel and also Dr. Katrina. Um, Michelle. Hopefully Michelle is she's live right now. All right.
Absolutely.
So where were we, Bobby?
Yes, yes. We're thinking perspective and how transformative perspective is as we go through the various challenges of bouncing back, and it doesn't always have to be a challenge, sometimes it's just the process of bouncing back. So my question for you, Junior, is, since you're always in a state of bounce back, you're always pushing yourself to your limits and figuring out the next step for yourself, what perspective do you have when things seem to take longer than they should? Because we all know that patience is a virtue. We all know that the bounce back is coming. It's like, okay, there's ups and then there's downs, and we always know there's an up coming. But what perspective do you take when it's like, okay, all right, it's been a month, it's been 3, okay, it's approaching a year. Like, what does that look like for you?
That's a very good question, Bobby, because actually I went through a very similar situation quite recently, actually. My perspective on that is I believe you know how people say life is not fair.
Yeah.
I believe that can be true, but I also believe that sometimes life can be very fair, maybe too fair, meaning that wherever you are right now is where you need to be or where you should be based on the work that you've put in. I don't believe in other words, if I don't have something, my perspective is I haven't earned it. I have not earned it. So if I don't have the house that I want, if I don't have the business that I want, if I don't have, the relationship that I want, whatever that is, I have not earned it as yet. I have not put in the work. I have not gotten the right perspective. I have not learned the right skills. I have not met the right people. I have not gotten to the right coaches. So I just believe that life is very fair. That's just my perspective. So when things take longer than they apparently need to take, I just tell myself, okay, there's something that I'm not doing. There's something that I don't see. Um, there's a perspective that I need to have that I'm not having. But there's also a concept of this, Bobby, and I've been using this for years, like several years, maybe like 10 years. It's called aggressive patience. So aggressive patience means that you try to do as much as you humanly can in as little amount of time as you can. Like today, when we get off this call today, I'm going to try to do as much as I can humanly do. Okay, as much as I can from now until the day ends. Okay? But at the same time, I also understand that things don't happen overnight, or some things don't. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. So I think mastering the art of aggressive patience, okay, and just understanding that for the most part, life is very fair, meaning that if you don't have something, you probably haven't earned it as yet. So
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of people saying, well, I want to start a business so I can get the freedom that I deserve. That's a very strong word, deserve. Think of what that means. You have to earn your freedom. So if you're not free yet, It means that there's a skill you don't have, there's a perspective you don't have, there's a client you haven't met, there's something that you're missing that you need to have to get what you want. And if I don't have that thing, then my attitude, my perspective is, okay, what do I need to do to get that thing? Somebody asked a guru the other day, phenomenal gentleman by the name of Sadhguru from India. They asked Sadhguru, what is your perspective on working hard? Sadhguru said, well, if you drive your car hard, does that guarantee you get to your destination? If you cook your food and then you press a little bit harder on the pot with the spoon, does that guarantee, is that going to make your food cook faster? If when you're ironing your clothes, if you press just a little harder on the iron, harder than you normally would, is that going to make your shirt come out quicker? So the answer is, Bobby, it's not necessarily always about hard work. It's about doing the right work.
Mhm.
Chances are, if you don't have what you want and you're working hard, then you're working hard on the wrong things. You're
Yeah.
working hard at the wrong things. So you don't need to work hard. You need to work right. You need to do the right things to get the right results. Working hard is very good, but only when you're working hard at doing the right things, not at doing the wrong things. So my perspective on that is, when it comes to patience, I have aggressive patience. Okay. I have aggressive patience, but I also understand that, hey, I'm probably just not doing the right thing here. Like there's something that I need to change, some perspective that I need to have. There's something that I'm not doing that I need to do. And that's my perspective.
You know, one thing that this has got me thinking about is coaches. Why everybody needs a coach. Everybody that's serious about development and growth needs a coach. So in the military, when you come in as a civilian, you go through boot camp. And boot camp is where they have about 12 weeks. If you go through the United States Marine Corps boot camp, you've got about 12 weeks to whip you into a lean, mean fighting machine. Okay. Now, during this 12-week program, you're going to be pushed by someone who cannot feel your pain. Now, I want you to understand what's very interesting about this perspective. Most times, the thing that we haven't learned, the skill we haven't acquired, the work we haven't done, all of these different things are tied to our own belief that we're doing enough. Listen to what I said. Most times when we haven't achieved what we're looking to achieve, or we haven't done what we haven't done what we need to do, it's because we believe in our own heads that what we're doing is enough. And the reason I think this happens a lot is because we know all that we've been through. We know what happened last night. We know what happened to us a month ago. We know what auntie did and what daddy did and what the guy that we never knew did. We know what all these people did to us. We know how the system is rigged against us. We know every little thing about why we are where we are. So when we exert all of this effort and we feel like it should be enough, we have this ego in us that says, I deserve something. I deserve this. I've been through all of this and I'm doing all of this. I deserve that. But here's what a coach does. A coach that doesn't feel your pain. The coach doesn't know what happened to you when you were a kid, and they don't care. They don't know what you did last month, and they don't care. They don't know what happened to you last night, and they do not care. What do they care about? They care about pushing you to the absolute limit of your current potential so that you can break through to another version of yourself because you are humanly capable. And that is the degree of pressure that very few human beings can apply to themselves. And it is why Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player, some will say, had a coach. Kobe Bryant had a coach. Muhammad Ali had a coach. Sean Reyes had a coach. Bobby Jackson had a coach. Junior had a coach. And we still have coaches to this day in various spaces, people that are mentoring us. So one thing that I will say to everybody that's watching this right now and is serious about getting the right perspective, Shaan would say it like this: it's hard to see the wrapper when you're inside the bottle. It's hard to apply more pressure when you're doing all the lifting. It's hard to apply more pressure when you're doing all the lifting. But when you're not the one under the weight, you're just the one adding the weight, it's a lot easier for someone to just add, and keep you from collapsing than it is for you to push, and ask for more weight. So I say all of that to say this: think about what you're doing right now in your business. What skill you haven't learned, what person you're trying to hire, but you haven't actually acquired the skill set that you're trying to hire. Now, before I turn it over to Junior, I want to break that piece down. A lot of people say, I need someone that can do my social media for me, but they haven't figured out how to do social media for themselves yet. So it's like, why hire someone that you cannot lead for one, you cannot hold accountable for two, at least to any standard that is respectable, because you don't know what you don't know and you don't know what they're supposed to do. All you know is there's something not getting done and you want it done, but you have no idea how to do it. So all of those little things are things that the coach will tell you, hey, you got to do that. You've got to learn that. That's non-negotiable. And those are little things that we wouldn't necessarily put on ourselves. So my question for you, Junior, as we get to 8:45, where we'll go to our next break, my question for you for when we come back is, what are a few things that you would not have done on your own, but you did them because you had a coach holding you accountable to the result?
I said Shaan Ride East. I'm proud. I said Shaan Ride East. Leadership is not the brand they made for us.
Listen, he brought fire, heat. He didn't hold back.
20 years down the line, what I could sell, why not serve first? Service over salary. Branding like a leader closes the gap for people who want branding. Speaking like a leader closes the gap for people who are nervous about speaking. If Steve Jobs would have speculated, we wouldn't have Apple.
He changed lives. He helped people open up their business and start their business.
We are the brand. Some people say, Shaan, should I quit my job? Mentally, yes.
As a speaker too, to be able to learn from him and watch him and game respects game. And I want to have that much game someday.
The right client, pay $500,000 for what you do. You have to be bold in your beliefs.
He has been an amazing asset to this event and a pleasure to work with. Very captivating, collaborative, worked very well with the audience.
I want to help you. Put a 0 behind your number, right?
The session was great. How he is online, virtually, he is even more phenomenal in person.
Be the face of change that you want to see. Stop asking questions and start giving demands.
The entire team has just been absolutely incredible. They are a joy to work with. They go above and beyond.
Give yourself a round of applause. Yes, yes, yes.
All right, Bobby. So your question was, what are some of the things that I would not have done if I didn't have a coach?
So that question was, what are a few things that you would not have done had you not had a coach holding you accountable to the results?
Oh man, a lot. There's a lot. In fact, when I started working with Shaan, there were a lot of things that I had not done previously that Shaan asked me to do. Like, he asked me to learn, say, see if you can figure this out, learn this, learn that. And man, it was a high pressure environment, where okay, so basically imagine walking into a job or walking into just a school, anything, a school, a job, whatever, just any situation, a training, and being asked to do something that you've never done before and to do it to a super high degree. Now imagine doing that every day for like several months. So that's like me telling Bobby, Bobby, I need you to build an email automation for the brand challenge. And
Yeah.
Bobby has to figure that out. He's laughing already, guys. Bobby has to learn how to do an email automations, even if he doesn't know how to write emails. He doesn't know how to build automations, okay? And he has to do it to a high degree. That was me for several months, like just learning different things. So there are so many things, Bobby, that I don't even know where to start. But a lot of the things that have pushed me and that has sort of shaped me and, you know, created what I call anti-fragility. So anti-fragility is actually a real word. You could look it up. And what it means is that the ability not to break. So I know with you, Bobby, I know you guys at the Marines, you go through your, what is it called? Is it called Hell Week? Is that what it's called? Where you go through
So
sort of
for
your
us,
training to get in. What is it
yes,
called?
it's similar. We call it the Crucible. Hell Week is for the Navy SEALs. So different
Navy
branches
SEAL.
have different things.
So that was like that for me, man.
Yeah.
So stuff like that, it helps you develop character so you don't break under pressure.
Wow.
So a lot of the stuff that I've done helped me to be very strong so I don't break under pressure. So you develop a certain amount of anti-fragility when it comes to business.
And there's something that I want to put out there too, because it's actually what I'm experiencing right now. Outward pressure is great, but it's not necessarily sustainable. So, what I mean by outward pressure is that we all need a push from time to time. We all need someone that sees in us what we don't see in ourselves from time to time. But it's unrealistic to assume that there's going to be a person your entire life looking over you, seeing everything that you're supposed to be doing or could be doing. So, what does that mean? That means there's a time for outward pressure, and then over time, you must develop inward pressure. And inward pressure is the pressure you put on yourself to perform. Inward pressure is the setting of higher standards that are internal to you and start to develop your ethics and starts to develop your character and your integrity. And all of these things, I think, matter most when you're going from follower or student to leader and coach or leader and executive. And many of you all that are watching this right now are professional business owners or your coaches, consultants, speakers, or at least looking to get into that space. So one thing that I want to put out there for you is how much pressure are you putting on yourself? Because Tim Grover put it like this, and this was the strength and mental conditioning coach for Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and Dwayne Wade. So he put it like this. He said, real winners, cleaners is what he calls them. Cleaners are the type of people that put more pressure on themselves than anyone could ever imagine to place on them. And that's another level. When you place more pressure on yourself than anyone else would possibly place on you, that means you are now immune to all outward pressure, because you're already putting more pressure on yourself than anyone else could. And that I have found is one, exactly where I am, is I've had Shaan Rais as a coach. I've had him as a mentor. I have him as someone that's leading and guiding me. And now I'm getting to that point where it's like, okay, he's shown me what real pressure looks like. He's shown me what grind looks like. He's shown me what squeezing looks like. And now it's time for me to go deeper within myself and say, okay, how can I exceed what he would even expect of me? And those are things that you want to be able to do, and hence why you want to have a coach, why you want to have outside pressure, because that creates the framework for you to build your own inward pressure. So my question for you, Junior, is do you have inward pressure? I'm sure you do, but I'd like to hear it from your perspective. Like, how do you put pressure on yourself?
Yeah, Bobby, I have a ton of inward pressure. Ton of inward pressure. I wake up with inward pressure. I wake up with inward pressure. My the way that I put pressure on myself is by setting very, very ambitious goals. Very ambitious goals, but also I feel like time is running out. That's just how I don't know if I'm the only person who feels this way. And put it in the chat. Do you feel like time is running out? I feel like there's not enough time during the day. I used to say, Bobby, back in the day, that I used to, let's say I'll be driving somewhere and I would see people, chilling, just on the corner, drinking, stuff like that, doing stuff they're not supposed to do, just basically wasting time. And I
Hmm.
used to say to myself, I wish I had a jar that I could go around and just collect all of the hours that people spend sitting on the block, sitting around the corner, just doing nothing. And I could put that time in a jar and I could take it back home with me so I can use.
Yeah.
For real, because I'm like, where do you guys get the like I feel like there's not enough time and I'm seeing people wasting time.
Hmm.
So for me, it's the same aggressive patience. It's like, okay, anything that could be done today should not be kept for tomorrow. Anything that could be done today should not be kept for tomorrow. I'm trying to do it right now. I'm not trying to wait 10 years. I'm not trying to wait 8 years, etc., etc. I'm trying to get it right now. And I'm doing everything that I can to get it right now. But it's also the aggressive patience where I recognize that, okay, even if I want to get it right now, I may still have to wait. And that's just the laws of nature. Because of the laws of physics and the laws of nature, I just have to wait. And I'm okay with that. But at the same time, I'm also okay with grinding right now.
Hmm.
So I put pressure on myself by setting ambitious goals, but setting very, very ambitious time frames.
Wow. Wow. That lets me, or leads me rather, to request. Can I make a humble request? I request that everyone write down a big goal and put a real time frame on it. Just a recommendation, just a light request, because I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna put it up somewhere. Real talk. Like, I'm gonna do it soon as we're done with the call, and I'm gonna put it up somewhere, because I agree with Junior 100% on this one. Time is precious. Like, for a long time, I wouldn't say the CANCER word. Wouldn't say it, because I knew a lot of people that had suffered from it. And Steve Jobs being one of them, my dad's wife being one of them, my granddad being one of them, a lot of people that I knew, or like, I didn't know them personally, but like, I followed them. And I was like, what if it gets me? What if that gets me? That C word gets me. And it made me think about time. And it made me think about how valuable time is when it's running out, and how cheap time appears when it shows up in abundance. So when you're a kid, you play all day long because time is cheap to a kid. Like, nobody's paying a kid for their time. But the moment people start saying, hey, your time is worth $10 an hour, $20 an hour, $100 an hour, time becomes more expensive. And the more expensive time becomes, the more aware people become of it. But I think what makes people most aware of time is when it's limited, like when it seems as if it's running out at a set time. Like, if you have X amount of days to live, now the person's like, oh my gosh, this is serious. Or if someone tells you, oh my goodness, I'm 50, I may only have a good 20 years left. Like, when you're at that stage where it's like the end is pretty certain, it's like nobody's really living past 100, 115. If you get to, say, 80, you pretty much know you got about a decade or two and it's over. And I think that people get serious about times when they get to that stage. So as we get ready to close out the call, I don't have too many more questions for Junior, but I will say this to Junior. As you have grown and developed and taken on different perspectives and learned different things about perspective. Uh-oh, they say they lost video and audio. Please put a 1 in the chat if you can see us and hear us. Can you see us and hear us? All right, so I'm going to keep going, but if you cannot see us or hear us, please put a 2 in the chat. If you can see and hear us, put a 1 in the chat. But my last question for you, Junior, or more of a statement, is what book do you recommend to someone that has greatly shifted your perspective on time and how you see time and how you manage your time? Is there a book out there that you would recommend to someone?
It's a good question. A book that I would recommend on time. You mean on managing time?
Yeah, just like something that shifted your mindset. I know the book that I'll recommend, and I'll recommend mine after you, unless you'd like me to go first.
Well, I don't think it would necessarily be a book.
Mm,
What has sort of ringed in my ears has been more of different sayings. So back when I was in school, long, long time. I mean, like I think you guys would call it like maybe junior high school. I think that's what you guys call it in your country, or maybe
mm.
even before that. All of my teachers from ever since I was 5 years old, they always told me, Junior, time wasted could never be regained. Time wasted could never be. Bobby, I've heard that for like 20 years. I kid you not, from 5 years old all the way to like 18 years old, every single day, time wasted could never be regained. And it keeps ringing in my head even to this day. Time wasted could never be regained. And it's so true. So for me, that has been my motivating factor when it comes to how I attack time. When it comes to time management, there's not really a book that I can recommend right now. Um, but I would say a perspective that I've gotten from people like Steve Jobs and Elon Musk is building systems so you could maximize your time. Like Steve Jobs dressed a certain way every single day. He
Mhm.
dressed the classic Steve Jobs look. And the reason he did that was so that he could maximize time. So that he didn't have to iron, he didn't have to think about, what clothes do I have to put today? He just knew what he was doing today and he maximized his time. So that would be my perspective.
Powerful, powerful. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the top of the hour. This has been your Breakfast with the Brand with our host, Junior Frederick, and myself, Bobby Stealth. Junior, any last words before we get out of here?
Yeah. So my last words to you is time wasted could never be regained. So whatever you want to do it right now. Anything that could be done today should not be kept for tomorrow. So if you're thinking about starting the business, if you're thinking about taking the program, if you're thinking about doing the website, if you're thinking about anything at all, take immediate and massive action, or you will be undoubtedly missing in action. Let's grow.